All aboard!
Hey, what's up, everybody? You're listening to Cannabis Karaoke, where we ask you to grab the mic and tell your story. Get inside info from today's most interesting cannabis pioneers, and from the first note to the end of the song, listen up as you get to hear the stories of success on Cannabis Karaoke. Welcome to another episode of Cannabis Karaoke. I'm your host, Danny Keith. And we've done a few podcasts in the last couple weeks as we're on this COVID lockdown, and today's is going to be a little different. I got my friends on the phone. I got Ophelia Chong and Carl Sailing III, and we are here to just have a conversation with you all and talk about the things that we're going through and the bouts of being stir crazy and technology not working and all kinds of fun stuff that's taking place. I don't think the world imagined everybody doing a Zoom conference 10 times a day, all day long for our system to be able to handle that. So welcome to the show, guys. And Ophelia, how you feeling right now?
Hola, I'm feeling good. I'm not wearing an animal costume, which is unusual because I've been going through just about every... Dude, my garage is full of costumes. So I'm working my way through them. And it is, I don't know what to do with myself. I know I'm supposed to be working, but I really don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. How about you, Carl?
Well, before I get into that, do you have any costumes for 6'2" white guys?
I've got, the dog on that show? Remember the show that's FX? It was a giant talking dog, Wilbur, or something like that? I have that costume, and it's extra large. Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's yours.
Okay. So I'll dress up as Wilbur, and then you dress up as something else. And then we'll go out on the town once this COVID stuff's over.
I'm needle pointing right now a COVA virus thing. Because really it's just a big gray ball with purple fuzz things on it. So I'm needle pointing.
Oh my goodness.
Basically I'm Laurel Ingalls on the prairie right now. I'm making bread. I'm needle pointing. I'm popping seeds. I'm growing mushrooms. I mean, the next thing I'm going to do is get a shotgun and go down and get some kill,
That's how it feels, right?
Start chewing some hemp instead of tobacco.
I feel like we're just, I kind of resonate with what you said. I'm supposed to be working too, and I don't know what that means because all three of us are very social people. We might be introverted when we're on our downtime because we're so social on the uptime, and now I'm not traveling anywhere. Now I'm not doing anything. I'm just working from home all day long. I'm not certain my marriage will survive it because I'm literally like trying to come up with projects to do every day and getting ADD and starting another project. I can't seem to pacify myself right now.
Well, it seems like a lot of my girlfriends are telling me, God damn it, my husband wants to have sex all the time. At least it's good with you, right?
COVID baby boom.
Oh, there's going to be a big one. Hey, Carl, I wanted to take a moment to just highlight and say thank you for the things that you've been doing recently, putting yourself kind of in harm's way a little bit by making hand sanitizer and getting out there and, doing your part. I always feel like many hands make light work, and you definitely took that to the next level. So thank you for doing that, while we are jumping off on this call.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. So, I mean, that's actually part of how I'm coping. I can't sit around and do nothing anyway, normally. And then you got this COVID stuff, and then people price gouging and all that stuff that was in the news, 2 months ago now. Really, 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 really made me angry. And I just had to figure out some way to help and give back. And at the same time, I give a big middle finger to the people that are price gouging. And now, and I made the conscious decision not to go selling hand sanitizer, even if I sold it for cost. I just don't want to be in that business. And it's funny. I don't know if you guys are getting these emails, but so many different CBD companies now are all producing hand sanitizer and selling them.
Wow.
I mean, the capitalist inside me is like, oh, did I miss something? Should I have done that? But then the human being inside me is like, no, you did the right thing, dude. You don't need to go sell a bunch of hand sanitizer. sell cannabis, focus on that, and let the other monkeys do that.
But what does CBD do for hand sanitizer? That's why I can't. Yeah,
I don't
I
think it
saw
does
that
anything.
too. No,
Well, I mean,
and
people
it's outrageous.
people are trying to say that there's some evidence that cannabinoids have antiviral and antibacterial properties. When they're soaked in chemicals and alcohol, does it still? And how much really does it have? And is that when it's a topical or when it's consumed internally? And who really knows, right? So I don't know. It's all marketing BS. It's all bullshit to me. People are just capitalizing on what's going on, and it's funny and sad, and just kind of shows what kind of people we have out there in the world. It's not everybody, but it's people taking advantage of people that are scared, and I really hate that.
And Danny, you probably saw in the news. This is riffing off on the same thing about a football player claiming his CBD is going to cure coronavirus.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's a pretty bold. So I think we've all had our peace of mind on this CBD infused. I mean, didn't you all get your CBD pillow? It's amazing.
I'm waiting for toilet paper.
Yeah,
toilet
exactly.
Paper.
CBD toilet paper to make my butt calm.
Carl,
to calm your ass down, Carl.
Calm your ass down,
CC. If we had done cheap CBD toilet paper last year, we would be making bank now.
I just think that just goes to the gullibility, of people and how they'll just read headlines and won't get past, at least in, unfortunately, the United States. I can't speak too much for the outside the United States at the moment, but people definitely are. It's funny. It's always the people that buy into the CBD hand sanitizer that will criticize you for smoking weed. And you're like, wait a minute, at least what I'm doing is benefiting me and having an effect. What you're doing is just, you might as well light your money on fire. And those people, they used to do pretty gnarly things back in the day to snake oil salesmen that would cause problems. They'd get ran out of town. And so I just wonder when, as a industry, we're not that any one of us hasn't been vocal on it, but it seems like it's a position that not a lot of people want to take. They don't want to disrupt it. Like when we used to work with CBD water, and when they got, nobody ever tested them until when someone tested them, they found out it didn't even have CBD in it. We kind of terminated our arrangement with them and said, look, we only want to work with, I'm here to tell the truth, not to just make money. I mean, we need to make money to live, but if you're doing it at the cost of people who are, I hate to use the word ignorant, undereducated, don't know any better, it's kind of like taking candy from a baby. It's not really. It shouldn't be allowed. It shouldn't be. It should just be shut down.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Especially since when with the new industry making all these new promises, right now everyone is so aware about promises of anything, a cure, right, or calming or enlightening and all that. And so what we're going to come out of this is more workers' rights are going to come out of this, but also truth. Because right now, what we've been sold from this administration is that don't worry about it. Of course, most of us did not believe them. But I think coming out of this is like, if you're going to say something, it better be true, right? Because we're coming through so much fraud right now across the board that any CBD company coming out with anything has should not say anything, should not promise, because they're going to get nailed.
I don't know. Are they though? Because I just don't see. I want it to happen. I want people to.
Oh, they are. They are losing business left and right. A lot of them, right? Because so they all started up with white labeling, most of them.
Sure.
And so they order a certain amount of product, and now they can't sell it, right? Or they're trying to do online sales, but everyone's money, like Carl, right? The first 2 weeks of our shutdown in California, everyone was in the dispensary cleaning it out. Right now, what I'm hearing from some of the dispensary owners that it's dead because everyone spent all their money.
Sure.
Right.
This situation is definitely, people just goes to show you how. And I may make some very controversial comments. I'm open to being criticized on them, but I travel quite a bit around the world, and Americans are slightly entitled and mostly lazy. and they don't really plan for the future, or they don't really think anything bad's going to happen. It's kind of why this disease is running rampant in the United States as it is, because we think we're invincible. It can't happen to us. I've got an iPhone. Like, it's not happening to me. Whereas you look around and, people in other countries have dealt with this thing a little bit more aggressively. Some have not been so aggressive, and we see it. And I think when you come back to this industry, we are starting to see some people policing it. Blacklist. I mean, I don't know if you guys both follow Blacklist, but I feel like they're doing a reasonable job. You got Beard Bros. Those guys are out there talking it on. And, yourself, Ophelia, you're considered one of the thought leaders in the space. And when you speak, people listen. I just think that it actually hurts our industry when we allow that kind of stuff to take place, because it just makes everything disingenuine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so, like,
look at what Carl does. It's all upfront. Sorry.
Oh, Carl's rad.
Yeah, no, but like, how do we police that? Like, what do we do? Like, how can we, shed some light on to some of these companies that are doing this bullshit?
Unfortunately, with the CBD component, there's not much we can do aside from make sure that people, we're calling out people. Do you remember, we're all old enough, and so I don't feel bad dating us all, but remember when David Horowitz would do the Consumer Affairs show, and he would just rip somebody a new whole, like whether it was a car or a product or whatever, and it would like just get hammered, and it would totally change that. Either that would put that company out of business, or they'd have to change what they were doing. It almost needs to be something to that effect where, everybody discounts something if it's against their opinion, right? It's fake news automatically. Fake news. I don't believe it. I don't consider the source. You don't have 10 people confirming it. We've gone from, we still do believe everything we read, but at the same time, if it's not what we believe, for most people, I feel like I try to be balanced and listen to both sides, but a lot of people don't want to hear it if it's not in line with what they believe. Somehow you got to get a message in the middle there where, we're not being malicious, but we're policing our own. And it's tough in an industry who's also being, heavily regulated by the state. You got, I don't know if either one of you knew, but Cushy Punch is kind of on its way back apparently. And not that I'm against them. I think everybody thinks they're the worst people in the room, but a lot of businesses are doing backdoor stuff. A lot of businesses can justify why they were doing that because they felt like the testing was onerous or overbearing or whatever. But, there's a company that's going to probably come back, and the consumer, us in the industry, were really kind of upset because we expected more out of them. But then, like, the consumer just is disengaged with it. And when they come back, they'll be like, oh, Cushy Punch. Cushy Punch is back.
Yeah. I missed you, Cushy Punch.
Right?
Maybe if they're fix their packaging. But I think that what we have to adopt after this across the board is do no harm, right? Across the board.
Yeah.
It's in what we do, what we say, where we go, and what we eat and what we offer. It's do no harm, because what we've been doing is a lot of harm, because you can just see how blue the skies are.
Oh my gosh.
Even in California, just after 2 weeks, right? And I also read that the turtles are coming back to some of the beaches in Florida because no one's on them, right? So there's a lot of things that are happening now that we don't want to go back to.
I think it's going to take this elongated period of time, because let's be real here. I talk to people all the time. Some of my business cohorts are out on the East Coast, and not necessarily New York, but other states that haven't hit yet. It's almost like you come out of the haunted house and the person that's about to go in, you're all, oh, just wait till you go through there. And they're like, what do you mean? And then they come out the other side, they're like, oh my God, you were right.
Great point, actually. You should tweet that out, because that's a really great analogy everyone can understand. No, because that's so true.
And it's like, I'm trying, you're trying to tell people, I'll tell you from my own personal situation. I'd go down to LA quite a bit. I'm down there every other week, if not more. And I was on my weekly trip out of San Jose. It's almost to the point I was like, I feel like I'm walking into Cheers at the San Jose airport, because they know you, and they're asking you questions about how's the business and everything else. But 3 TSA agents got, designated, or they had come down with the coronavirus, and like 42 people were quarantined. And I looked at my wife and I said, I think I'm going to just not go on this trip. And this is before anybody was really thinking we had a problem. We were still being told it was going to be over in 15 days. And I I decided to cancel that trip, and I quarantined myself from that day forward. And I've literally only been 3 places, 2 times to Trader Joe's, primarily because my wife is Asian, and there's so much Asian hate right now that I don't want anything to happen to her. And then 1 time to surf that I'm guilty of because I thought I should be able to do that. And so that's it. And that's all I've gone out, and my friends think I'm crazy. They don't now, but they were like, "Oh, come on, man. What are you tripping on? It's not that bad. It's going to be over soon. We're going to be fine," and it's not fine.
Now,
No.
getting sick or death is there are 2 options, right? And or you have to stay inside the house, basically.
And we've never seen anything like that. I mean, to Carl's point,
No,
like
never.
we're all kind of going stir crazy. I mean, what's a day in the life of Carl right now?
Yeah, so the day in the life of Carl, I'm actually, I mean, I think I'm lucky. I don't know, really, because our business is not, I'm sorry, our business is not shut down. We are considered an essential business. So we're up and operational. We've got 3 employees that wanted to shelter at home, which we facilitated. The rest, we're doing social distancing and extra cleaning and all that stuff. So we're doing a lot of extra work. And I sent everybody home that worked in our admin office. So I have that office to myself. So my path is from my house to my office, and then to my office to my facility. And that's pretty much all I do. I'm going through weird emotions. It's like I'm awesome, and then I'm just okay, and then I'm like, fuck, and I'm crying, and then I'm awesome again. I read a story about somebody losing their spouse over COVID, and then I think about that for a minute, and then I get upset and shit like that. I'm an emotional guy, so I'm already getting choked up talking about it.
It sucks, dude. Like I've had our neighbors who have family in the UK lost some people. My next door neighbor is a critical care ICU nurse, so I get to hear things, and I'm talking to him from like my back door to his back door, like, hey, what's going on? I'm throwing beers over with umbrellas to him or parachutes so he can have a beer, and just telling him thank you. But it's true. I mean, it's, this thing is indiscriminate, and it kind of, you just don't know, like who it's going to hit or how it's going to hit. And we don't even know how it transmits still. And I think
now they're talking about just people talking and breathing, it could transmit.
Sure. I mean, I think it's crazy. I also want to get both your opinions on, like, it's funny. You said you're an essential business. It's not funny. It's awesome, actually. But it's ironic, right? With all the battles that cannabis had to go through, that we got the duck nod on essential, and everyone was like, holy shit, we're essential. And it kind of gave this like moment of like almost like we had a stronger hold in the situation now because we were deemed essential. But now you have counties that are saying, all right, you can be essential, medicinal. And so now they're still finding a way to kind of block people from getting their medicine, because now you have to have, first of all, the dispensary has to be a medicinal. Like San Jose is all medicinal now, no more recreational. And so
unless it's delivery.
I didn't read that, but I hope that would be awesome. I'm sure people are going to do whatever, but like, what do you guys think about that? Ophelia, what is your thoughts on how the state keeps, like, it's really a mess?
It seems like it's very cliche about designing, right? The platypus was designed by 4 people who shouldn't be together, or basically it's too many cooks in a kitchen. I'm sorry, coming back to this. And there is no leadership. And also it is, Carl probably has more of it than I do, because mine's all tangential. It's all outside looking in about the BCC, but it is amazing that cannabis is deemed essential. I mean, that's excellent. Someone is really fighting and lobbying up there. However, again, it's just like when we come out of this, we have to stay on it and push that it is essential across the board. Carl?
Yeah, I agree with that. One of the things that you say, that you were saying about, leadership in the three agencies that regulate cannabis. There really hasn't been leadership as far as talking. I mean, I think they finally released something, but I had emailed them 3 times asking them, what is their response to this COVID thing? What are we supposed to do? Give us some guidance. And it was like, just follow what the CDC is saying. Like, there was no specific cannabis kind of thing. So we were like left out on our own, it seems. Luckily I was hitting up Omar Figueroa, which is, I'd say the best cannabis attorney probably in the country, but I'm biased because he's our attorney, and he's a great human as well. He reached out to them as well, and they did get some response, but I mean, it was kind of lukewarm and nobody coming out and really taking a stance and saying, hey, this is what we need to do as an industry, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, there's really none of that.
I think it's going to go back to the 2 groups, right? Of everything that we're having here. Sorry, Danny.
No, go for it.
One punts the ball, which is federal, and the other one is state. They actually are controlling what's happening, right? Not maybe, of course, not everything is great, but we've found out that there is no safety net, because we've read every year Venezuela food riots, right? India, interfighting between the Sikhs and the Muslims and Hindus, right? We always see this massive stuff happening. Kenya, Somalia, Ethiopia, all of these, right? It's all so far away, and just a picture on a computer or news flash or something, it doesn't touch us. But now, finally, we are actually in this very dire situation where we have 6 million people declaring unemployment in one day, right? So what are we going to come back to, and how is the BCC going to lead, right? We saw their leadership, and it's really about, again, going back to who do we trust after all of this. And so, Danny, sorry, I interrupted you. You were going to talk about the admin.
No, I think what you just said was very poignant. I think you're right that what I was going to actually, my statement works better after that, what you just said, because the bigger problem is that California sets the tone for the rest of the country. So then you get other states that are kind of looking towards California like, okay, what do they do? Okay, shit, they've been doing it much longer than us, so we're gonna do a little bit of a twist off that. And then when there's just the complete lack of oversight or real definition to it, I mean, we had to ask. Like, look, if in San Francisco right out of the gate, they basically said nope, and then you saw Berner, you saw a couple other heads jump out and say, hey, whoa, wait a minute, we're essential, we're medicinal, we've been granted this clearance. Like, that was a brilliant move. I don't think it was brand driven. I think he did it from like a point of like, hey, well, he has a store in San Francisco, that probably helped. But the fact of the matter is that they made decisions that they were easily reversed, And so if we're capable of doing that as an administration, and if we can make those kinds of fluid movements, then we need to take this opportunity in time when everything's kind of wound down, so to speak, and restructure. I think the biggest mistake we made with 64 was it's a state mandated approval, but it's county and city driven. Well, we went from like 5,000 doors to 500 doors. And, so the way we're managing it top down, like, people can say it's taxes, people can say it's testing, people can say it's packaging requirements. I think we could live with those 3 things if we had a more open, free market with defined boundaries, and not this like clamshell game of whoever's getting greased possibly, or who has some ulterior motive around cannabis or how they feel about it, are making abstract definitions of the laws that have been put out there that are vague in themselves. Now, all these dispensaries that have just been working on a rec license, if they don't have a medicinal license, what's the status of those? Can they keep selling? Do they have to shut down? It's not really clear. It just says clients have to have
county by county, city by city,
Which
here, I mean, San Bernardino County, it's been all of it's deemed essential. So the only dispensary that's both medical and recreational that's in Hollister is open.
Right,
Well,
but the client has to have a medicinal card, right? They have to have the you
No.
can't. Oh,
No.
but in Hollister, but in San Jose, now. And
Right.
you're saying with deliveries it's different, but my point is like the Bay Area has been the most aggressive on flip flopping all over the place.
Oh yeah.
That's gonna impact other areas, unless we have free thinkers in some of our county supervisors and our city supervisor or city councils. But I can't bet on that because it goes back to the question of, like Ophelia said, who do you trust? There is no leadership. It's like a big like matzo ball soup that everybody's got a piece of.
The funny thing about this whole situation of every state is running their own sort of COVID program is that now everyone knows how cannabis is run in the states, right? Every state is different. Every city is different. Every county is different in the response to COVID-19. And it's the same way with cannabis. You walk across the street is completely different. It's this patchwork system that it seems like it's part of our DNA. If we're running this whole COVID thing, county by county, city by city, state by state, then really how we're running cannabis is not any different.
Sure.
Right. And it's stupid. It's really stupid.
Well, we're not applying best practices, it seems.
Hell no.
By doing this kind of independently, ad hoc. And let's face it, we've long since, I'm pretty heavily involved in my area in politics. And, if any of them happen to listen to this podcast, I respect you all. But at the same time, I loathe you all for not having the ability to dig down deep and do the right thing. Instead, you protect your political posture and you don't want to lose a re-election. Well, that's to me, that's not a leader. That's a boss. And a boss is always going to do what they feel is in their best interest first, then their employees' best interest second. A true leader is what you heard from Carl earlier, which is being open, being flexible. Yeah, you're in charge, you're the boss, quote unquote, but you're a leader. And I think we're really at a deficit in leadership kind of everywhere almost. I mean, there's a couple people that are standing out right now, and dude, like Cuomo comes out and all of a sudden he's the next president. I mean, it's pretty bad when we can have a disaster and someone steps up and all of a sudden that's the new person we need to have in place. Like, aren't we better than that as a country? Aren't we better than that as a people to have people that are fighting to do the right thing versus people that are constantly either looking the other way or purposely doing like the wrong thing? Like LA's just had its fair share of people that got in trouble for taking kickbacks.
Oh yeah, half our council is an Englander. He was taking. The funniest part was that in the paper it said taking bags, envelopes of money in Vegas, big trip Vegas, hotel, everything, and was provided an escort. Right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Englander, Quasar, who ran downtown LA, which where most of the growers used to be Jungle Boys, a whole bunch of cultivations down there. He took a lot of money from developers, but we're not, and that doesn't even scratch the surface if he took money from weed as well, right? Because we don't know. They're only hitting him with the one they found him with. So LA is a very large mess, and also appointing someone who came out of state might have had some qualifications, but was way too young, and also was given no budget and no support. Right, was also a big issue.
And LA's got probably close to 2/3 of the dispensaries in the state, in its county. Just knowing it from running through
150.
Through the market. I mean, there's 14, I think, last count, maybe 15 in San Jose. I think there's like 37 in San Francisco. There's 14 in Santa Cruz, one in Hollister, right, Carl?
Yeah, one in Hollister.
I mean,
hopefully soon to be delivering from us.
Yeah, no, that would be great, man. I do want to say like an area that I feel, and maybe I'm biased because I live here, but I kind of felt like Santa Cruz did it ahead of the curve. They hired a cannabis czar. We're on our like third cannabis czar now. We don't have too many problems. I mean, we got mountains, so there's always going to be your backyard growers that are up there, but they are aware of them and they're policing them. And as long as everyone's being straight, pretty much everybody's good. And so we've got a good little system here. I mean, the complaints that I think anybody in Santa Cruz might have would be because of the state regulations or the state taxes or the state, packaging requirements. A lot of it, our county has been cautiously optimistic on how the cannabis businesses ran, and we were doing it as of like 2016. We were, allowing these cannabis businesses to come out of the woodwork and admit what they were doing, and we would protect them. And it was a risky play for both the county and against the state, but it worked out in our favor. And it was ironically also the one place in the state that when everything went recreational, they really didn't see a huge uptick because everybody in Santa Cruz smokes weed already. So it wasn't, we were all like, okay, we're rec now. Like all of us had med cards. Nobody was worried about that, but now as we go back to that, a lot of these new customers or new patients, there was no incentive for them to have a medical card. So now you're going to have people that are going to be stalled out on getting their medicine, because when's the last time we talked about a pot doctor and medical cards,
Presto doctor should be thrilled.
Right? Or Dr. Frank,
Or even like Hello MD, which changed their whole business plan, right?
Yeah.
Same with Get Meadow. You
Oh,
should be able to
right.
do it with them as well.
Yeah. Is Presto Doctor still around? Maybe on the other somewhere else, but I don't think in Hello MD they've went completely CBD. I think possibly.
They also do that show with Ngayo, the Daily Bonfire, where they do like a daily trivia show, or I'm sorry, not daily, like 3 times a week trivia show.
Do?
I'm supposed to be part of that. What are you doing?
Are you gonna do daily trivia? Are you gonna be one of the talents?
No.
Oh.
I'm not one of the talents.
Oh, I figured you would be. You know quite a bit.
Product sponsor, maybe.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So here's something to think of. Just some like differences. So we just acquired Venom extracts out of Arizona, and talking to them, man, it's kind of night and day over there. So they're only medical. They're blowing up. There's lines around the block, and the doctors writing the scripts for the cards cannot keep up.
Oh man!
Like the one doctor, it was like 2 months of appointments or something. They're like doing hundreds a week each doctor. It's like, because we had some fears, just like we do here in California, that big spike, it's going to be a big drop. Once all this is done, people are out of money. There, it seems like the patient base is just increasing dramatically.
I think we saw that here though too with medical. People weren't really tripping too much on having to get a card. If you wanted to smoke weed, it was starting to become like, okay, you got your card,
right.
And I think after this episode, look, the dispensaries are still going to retain those medicinal and recreational permit statuses, right? And so I think we may see the reemergence of these pot doctors, and they will peak out here through this process, but then there's always going to be a group of people that will that are truly patients that will make that decision to keep their med card, besides just having a tax break, you'll be guaranteed access to your medicine no matter what, because that's what we're establishing right now.
That's really interesting, because it would be coming out of the shift, would some dispensaries go completely medical, because also the taxes are lower, right? Are they still lower? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think you save. What is it? Do you know, Carl, offhand? I can take a guess. But
I'm pretty sure you save on the excise tax, but you don't save on the cultivation tax that was paid by the grower or by the distributor.
I think the consumer saves about 2%. In LA anyways, 2%.
Yeah, and when I got 2014, I actually got my Health and Human Services cannabis card, and that whole process cost me like $160.
Yeah, it's not cheap. It wasn't cheap back in the day, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know how much it costs now, but
I think it got down as low as like $40. Because as recreational was coming, people were like, I don't need my card, and the illicit market had started popping back up pretty strong again, and so people were tired of being gouged. I remember the first time I got my card in 2000, I think it was 2014 as well. I had to sit in a waiting room for 2.5 hours. That's one of the ways
oh, wow.
That's one of the ways I was working at the Warriors at the time, and I was like, why isn't there a TV on the wall? Like I could watch. And then I was all ding, 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 And so a lot of our first like installs were inside doctors' offices because that's where you had like you were averaging an hour plus dwell time on the people that are watching it. And since that time to now, I remember the last time I renewed my medical card was when I was going to a party, what was once called Harvest, and the only way you could get in was if you had your medicinal card, and mine had expired. Even though I was working in the industry, I just stopped renewing it. And so we got on with Dr. Frank, which I think was nugs.com or something. And, you did a little thing, you did a little face Skype, and then bing, bang, you got an email with your license, and it was like $39.95, So I think you're going to see that market pop back up. It was all but dead. I was thinking about giving Dr. Frank a call and just seeing like what he was up to, see if because he was one of the ones that was doing really well with that back in the day.
Oh, totally. I got mine in a totally sketch place where the Super Bowl was playing on in the background. Everything was painted bathroom green. There was a wooden table, which was supposedly the exam table. And the doctor had one eye on the TV, one eye on me. He said, "Can you sleep?" I said, no. She was good. "Okay, here's your thing." And so I walked out of there, and I also got my state of California card too at the same time because they were offering them as well. I still renew my medical card just because I feel that I should, just to support who's ever left.
Sure.
But yeah, I can see it going back. Some areas, looking at San Jose and what's happening there, and going into completely medical.
Yeah, apparently
The good thing
delivery
for
from
the
what Carl
supply
says is still
chain,
open. Sorry, go ahead, Carl.
the supply chain, we can do both. We can swap either or. It's I honestly
Right.
forget if we have to. I think when we deliver it, like when we're sending it out, we can distinguish it as medical. I think it should all be just one thing anyway. But
Can we just take this opportunity to reverse 64, cherry pick the things out of 64 that we like, which I like the packaging regulations. I like some of the testing stuff. I think it's good for us. But can we just remove, I think just make it back to medical, and just that way it's not open rec, and people have to go through a process to get it, because it seems like ever since we went rec is when everything just seemed to take a left turn.
And then you had companies turning it into a recreational thing, right? I mean, when you look at all the marketing and branding, it's not medical. None of it's medical.
No.
And to do that, you would have to do a sea change in that marketing, because then does it start looking like Viagra ads, right?
Right.
So what does it start looking like?
Yeah, I take a different stance on that one, Danny. I would like it all to be recreational, just open things up to allow for more retail. That's really the biggest issue. They opened it up and allowed all these cultivators and manufacturers and distributors. There's probably, I don't know how many, like at Hall of Flowers when we were there last time, 500 brands, but there's only 600 stores.
But that's not because it's rec. That's because the state said, okay, every county can make their own decision. And so then there's counties that decided to opt out. I think the last count I had was, I think there's 11 out of 84 counties that are actually participating in cannabis. I may be way off, but I know that there's a number, because we know, you and I both know there's deserts in the middle of Central California specifically, that there's, no cannabis stores for hundreds and hundreds of miles. And, and those people are, look at what just happened recently, with Glass House and those guys. They got harassed out there in Carpinteria, and so I think that if we're going to stay rec, then every county should have to participate. Every county should have a bare minimum that they offer, and they have to do it. And it just shouldn't be allowed to opt out. I understand the need to separate church and state, if you will, but at the same time, that's what's causing the illicit market to jump, is because certain counties either don't understand it, don't want to understand it, or just don't care at all. Like in those areas, it doesn't mean that cannabis isn't still flowing. It's just they're not getting any taxation on it. They're not getting any regulation on it.
Actually, you just raised a really big point right there, taxation. Because right now, there's a huge drop in sales tax, right?
Sure.
Drop in of what people can actually afford. So these counties that or cities or whatever are not allowing it are going to be in a shortfall. I mean, all California is going to, every county, every city is going to be in a shortfall. So do you think this would start pushing them and thinking we need to create income? God damn it, we got to take cannabis. Do you think that's start going to happening, Danny?
Common sense says no. Optimism, maybe. Only because I know how at least from the people that I've interacted with and how they react to things, they have to be pressured. And so you have to have some groundswell movement of people basically that are just going like almost like an Aaron Brockovich of cannabis that goes and just fights in every single county and forces them legally to, that's really what these big cannabis brands that are doing really well and either are looking at expanding out of state or doing something else. They should form a coalition, a true coalition, with the intent of getting 100% county participation across the state. That would explode the whole industry. That would squelch the illicit market, and it would allow us a chance to really see what California is capable of. As long as there's nobody fighting for it in some of these counties, and there's just zero process, I just don't see somebody having an epiphany, and just saying.
Maybe you and Carl can answer this question for me. What are all these associations doing for people on cannabis? Like, what are their what are the mandates of, like, say CCA, NCIA? Oh my God, every association in California for cannabis. What are their mandates? Shouldn't they be pushing something like this, or what's going on?
So hard for me to not speak my mind. I think a lot of them started with the best intent and became either acquired or went through a process by which revenue became more important than the cause. And if for a certain amount of money you could put that badge on your website and say you're supporting that association, and I think they do try to, for the most part, bring education abound and everything else. But nobody, at least from my observation, is truly focused on the normal. Like normal used to be. I mean, that's what they fought for. You talk about our original people, Dennis, all these guys that fought and went to jail and, kind of forced this thing to happen, got 215 going, we're influential in 64. Those people are gone. Nobody's fighting for tomorrow anymore. Everybody fights for today. And therefore everybody stays in their own little world. We need some leaders and some warriors to go out there and call to question. And unfortunately, we're in a litigious society now where you have to legally go attack things and find their vulnerabilities and attack those legal vulnerabilities. And because we've shown that the taxation component is there, no, not slamming Bakersfield. I'm just randomizing. You don't think Bakersfield could use a couple $1 million in taxation? I mean, for God's sake, like nobody on that city council or county supervisors figured that out yet. It's 2020. Like you can't look to the South and see what taxation's going on. You can't go pull those numbers and go, well, we're X percent, so we should generate X. Well, so I think it's possible. I just think you have to fight for it, Carl?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree. I agree with your statement that they probably started out with the best intentions and then economics, kind of took over. Plus, in some of these places, there's been some like infighting issues I've seen and stuff like that. But yeah, so how do we affect some change? Like, what can we do? Do we start a new one?
Well, what is the biggest question is going to come out of this, right? Because right now people are innovating, right? We're trying to find things to do what we need to do every day, right? Zoom is breaking up because it's being overwhelmed. Zencast, right? There's all these things coming up to help us do better, and also help people make money, right? So at the end of this, at the end of May, at the end of June, where are we going to be that we can create something out of what I'm trying to put this. Everything we're going through now, we do not want to go through this again. And because we're going through this, we're seeing that many cracks in our society. So at the end of this, not just cannabis, but what is the big push for next, right? What is it? Is it the end of partisanship? Is it a cleaner, healthier world? What are we going to push for?
I like how you think. I think
Yeah, so do I.
I think for me, I try to live. I think this is why the three of us are talking right now. And we can have a conversation where even if somebody doesn't agree with somebody else, we can state that and we're civil and we're listening. I think that's the first thing. I think if we had to come out of this with just one thing in my, like, I kind of go for, like, if I can just make one sale or impact one person, like I'm a big, like, giving myself a really kind of like under promise, over deliver kind of mentality would be to have humility and for people to look at other people through a different set of lenses. I think we've gotten so hurried in our life that if someone cuts in front of us in line or cuts us off on the freeway or even working together with somebody, we don't necessarily have to get along with each other all the time. It doesn't have to be kumbaya, but there's just not enough humility in the world and being appreciative of another human being and maybe even saying, hey, you're killing it. Good job, keep going. We tend to focus on, even though we've kind of banged on the state and all that, we've kind of, I don't want to say we've been negative, but we've been critical. I think here we are, trying to figure out, okay, what's the solution? So I think some humility and if there's a problem, don't just point out the problem, come with a solution and stand by that solution. A lot of people
Exactly.
are wishy-washy.
Well, I hate when people just bitch. Yeah, okay, that's great. Give me a solution. You got a problem? All right. Come up with something. Come up with options. Just don't bitch.
Yeah, exactly. And because this is what we're going to see. We're going to see somebody come out of nowhere, right? Or quite a few people come out of nowhere with an idea, right? And it's going to be born out of this age, right? Because out of the most distressed times in our history, the best things have come out of it.
Absolutely.
And there's a book you guys should read called Steel, Guns, and Germs. It's probably written about 20 years ago, and it's about how the world was changed by those three things: war, right? War and death. So, and also the steel represents industrial revolution. So where we're going now, we have a fourth one to add to that, right? That's going to change the world. And it's not really a virus. It's not that, but it is, we've come to this point where all these things have met, and it is a merging of all the things that are wrong, and now we can fix it.
But here's something that I'm excited for out of all this is all the creative people like you, Ophelia. I consider you super creative. Everybody's in their houses. They're not out performing. They're just so much amazing stuff is going to get made in the next year. I think it's going to be beautiful. Really. I mean, if you think about that, all the people that have to express themselves and they're not able to right now, I just think they're all creating something amazing right now. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
And we're going to see it because we're already seeing the creation of a healthier earth right now by us all not driving. And me just looking out my window, I see immediate impact already. And also just talking to people actually see my neighbors when I'm walking, is that everyone is talking and everyone's listening. So hopefully coming out of this in about 3 or 4 months, we will be able to get back to the table and go, let's fix a bunch of shit right now.
Right? I want to believe that too. I think what, a lot of, when we had the recession, a lot of brand new ideas and innovations popped out, and it's always, sometimes, it's not unlike being a performer, it's not like being a singer or somebody that does stand-up comedy. Like, from great pain comes great inspiration. And so with humans, unfortunately, we're the smartest genus on the planet, supposedly, that fails to recognize the most obvious things that we should be doing to make more people's lives better. And the funny part is, if people are under less stress, like if we just met, and I don't want to get on a soapbox, but if we just met some basic needs for most people, we would actually see us like the population would steady, right? Like when you have people living in poverty, when you have such a disparity of wealth, um, you end up having the people that are in poverty tend to have larger families. They tend to have they just that's what they have, and they're not given the opportunity to leave that. And then what ends up happening is you have all this distress on wealth inequality that really causes this whole economic seesaw to take place that we shouldn't be monetizing healthcare. If you're sick, so many people I've seen stories about, if I get sick, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to tell a doctor I was on a cruise ship with 150 people that had the coronavirus because that's the only way you're going to get tested. I mean, it's just asinine that we look and we treat people as a number, like how much can they produce? How much are they buying? Like, when are we going to get to the gross national happiness place instead of the gross national product place?
Because we're getting there because it's in 2009, right? It was the AIDS vaccine came in, right, after 20 years of from the Hope Diamond from Dr. David Ho, right? It's a combination of the cocktail that came out in 2009. Who knows what's going to come out a year from now, right? Whatever someone is starting now, in a year, we're going to see a renaissance of things coming out because now we've been made to isolate. And like you said, we're made to think now in our own spaces and not having to dress up for people, put on a show for people, be this thing outside where we are. We're basically faced with ourselves and thinking, what are you really? So at the end of this, we're going to be really, either really, really huge at, or who knows what we're coming out of this? Who knows, Carl or Danny, what we're going to come out of this as?
I do hope live music comes back. I'm sure it will in some way, shape, or form, but that's one of the big things I'm missing right now.
Oh my, I know. And look at downtown LA. It's completely dead. Every one of those
crazy.
people are out of work, right? Oh, can you imagine every concert that's been booked until the end of the summer? Done.
Huge festivals. It's crazy. So my son, my oldest son, Hunter, he's an actor in LA. I mean, he's got nothing to do. He's sheltered in place and staying inside, and like there's no jobs, there's no callbacks, there's no auditions. And then his side gig, which was some pizza place, I mean, he's got 8 hours a week now instead of whatever he was doing before.
I think as we sit here in what is considered week 3, I guess, of our, going into week 3 of our, we've only been on quarantine technically for 2 weeks, so, and we're probably looking at, I mean, I have my
2 months, at least a month.
Oh, I think we're at least and here's the deal, just because we decide in 45 days that we're going to go back to doing whatever doesn't mean the virus is going to comply, So I think we're looking at least 2 months and it's going to peak before it goes back down, and then we're going to get kind of some rhythm going, and then we're going to do the same thing that happened in China. We're going to open up. We're going to have some reinfections. We're going to have a little bit better handle on it. Hopefully within the next 60 days, they'll have a better idea on how, like, what drugs or what processes. I mean, right now, the process is if you get intubated, 80% chance you're not coming out. So it's hopefully within the next 60 days, they can figure that part out. And then I still think it's another 60 days after that before people really start feeling comfortable about, and we may be forever changed. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in
I'm sure we are.
I've spent a lot of time in Bangkok where, like, you put on your shoes, your shirt, your belt, and your mask, and you go outside with a mask. And pretty much like 70% of the population, at least in Bangkok, wears masks on a regular. And so we are infectious people by nature. It's a lot of the reasons why all these diseases pass between us. And we may be living in a different hygienic state going forward. I hope hugs aren't done, but they could be,
And also, we love our antibiotics here.
Yes.
I mean, So that, and the use of Purell, I would just wash hands. I mean, Purell is good, but after this, use sparingly, right? Because that can cause some issues too. But use as much as you can now. Just slap that on and wash your
just
hands.
everywhere. It's amazing how much you have to pay attention to what you touch now. You know.
Oh,
and
someone came up. You shouldn't touch your dog because you just touch your dog. All right.
Right? We had a neighbor come and pick up the dog, and we gave the dog a bath. You know, because we were like, we don't know.
Keep the dogs in here. This is now your dog, neighbor.
Yeah.
You touch them. Here you go.
Hey, you know, this has been an amazing talk. I'd love to make this a series thing where, like, once a week we get together and we kind of recap what we're going through. It'd be fun to just have that, like, even if we don't release these, and I'm fine with you guys listening to these before they go out because we got deep on some stuff. But I think it would be cool because
I'm okay with everything I said.
You know, Ophelia, you made a profound statement, which is who's going to come out with the leadership. And I think, you know, I definitely look at both of you guys as people that are champions and pillars in your own kind of vertical. And for me, I'm looking to really be a beacon, if you will, to amplify that stuff. Like sometimes my opinions make sense, sometimes maybe not, but I know that I can do this kind of stuff and we can create some sense of calm. I've already had people tell me they've listened to some of my podcasts and like, oh man, so glad to hear that guy's going through the same thing that I'm going through, you know? And so I think if you guys are cool with it, I'd love to, you know, and we can always change our mind, but I'd love to make this a weekly thing. Yeah. And it's just the hour with the three of us to talk about, you know, what's happening and how we can, you know, maybe enact some change and get a little deeper in some of our topics.
Hey, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you, Danny.
Oh, no. Thank you guys for willing to jump on. Carl, I'll try to be a little bit more technologically advanced next time. But for now, I just want to say I love you both, and I'm glad you're both safe and healthy, and I really look forward to talking to you again. And soon enough, we'll be hopefully, you know, back doing our old stuff with a little bit of that memory in the back of our head of how to appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny. Thanks, Ophelia.
Thanks,
great talking to you guys.
Carol. Bye.
That's a wrap. Thank you for listening to this edition of Cannabis Karaoke, another kick-ass podcast about all things cannabis. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and our website, cannabiskaraoke.tv. And if you or someone you know would like to be on the show, please hit the book your interview button on the right. Cannabis Karaoke. Grab the mic and tell your story.